couple of weeks ago, I finally got around to buying a used Eventide H9 Max. So I had been thinking about getting one for a while because they look like really cool pedals, but they are still expensive. And it was also kind of difficult to justify because I've already got a Fractal Axe FX 2, which does a lot more stuff, and it can run multiple effects at the same time in lots of different routings and lots of different orders, and do a lot of things that you can't do with the H9. And whereas with the H9 you can only run one algorithm at a time, it's not quite the same as running one effect at a time, because some of the algorithms, like some of the newer ones, which I'll show you later, can actually run several effect types at the same time within one algorithm. It's basically one at a time. And I've also got very good plugins as well for effects, as well as Soundtoys Effects Rack, which is really good. I've also got Guitar Rig 5, which is underrated and has some good stuff in it. And I've also got a plugin for Eventide Black Hole. So I've already got a plugin for that, which is only $29.99, and that's good. And so in contrast to that, in England, a new Eventide H9 Max is about £599, and the new Eventide H90, which can run two algorithms at the same time and which you can route them different way, is £899, which does seem like a lot for a pedal. So, but with that, well, the problem with the Eventide H9 Max, so I'm doing this video now and it's June 2004, and it's about a year ago the H90 came out, because the H9 had basically been filled up with algorithms. So for ages when you bought it, every now and again they'd bring out a new algorithm. If you had the Max version, you'd basically get a whole new effects pedal, the new, which is kind of cool, but that's full up now, and they're basically not doing anything more with it anymore. They've stopped doing the core and the basic one, because there's not much point now, because if you're going to buy those to do a second one, so you could do two at the same time, you'd be better off buying the H90, and the H90 is going to get new stuff on it. But one of the reasons as well, which I'd be reluctant to buy a pedal which is that much, because if you spend like £900 on a pedal and you've got it in front of a stage, someone spills their beer over it, you're really not going to be very happy. Also, another consideration is that they're very nickable as well, an H9 or something, or H90, and this does happen quite often. So I do know that the guitarist in a friend's band went out, they had quite a big tour of the opening act, went out first night and came out and somebody just nicked the overdrive at the front of his stage. So this does happen a lot, and some people have huge pedal boards worth thousands of pounds. Somebody spills your beer over it, that's a disaster. Whereas if you've got all your stuff just like an Axe FX in a rack at the back, it's a lot more protected. So that's another consideration. But anyway, it's fun. The price has dropped down on the Eventide H9 Max second hand. So I got my one for $310 with the box and the power supply and postage included, which is quite a good deal. And it's a fun toy. But what I was really after, or what my justification for buying it would be, things that are where it does something different that I can't do otherwise. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of the effects list. I have done two videos so far. I did one, just a sort of silly one on just useless effects, because there are a lot of fairly ridiculous effects in it you would never use. And then I did another one on crazy but cool ones, top 5 ones. So they're like quite way out ones, but in a way they're what I want, because there's something different which you can't do with the standard effects. So the Axe FX, I've pretty much got it covered for all your basic effects. So what I'm looking for, and my reason to justify actually buying it, would be the sort of things I can't reproduce with the Axe FX, or at least reproduce convincingly. So I have got some attempted reproductions for Black Hole, and I'll play you that later to see the difference. So I'll play you the difference between the actual H9 pedal Black Hole, the plugin one, which is only cost me $29.99, and a couple of different attempts on the Axe FX by different people, so you see how close you can get. So I'm just going to go through on the video on here. So what I've got up here on the screen here, actually I'll just put the selector thing up. So you just see the highlighter. So in the pedal itself, you can only have 99 presets. It holds it, but then if you use the actual software with it, you've got over 500 different presets. And then what you can do is, if you're doing a gig or something, you decide to basically load the pedal with the actual presets you want. So you could basically put your set list into your pedal or something. So that was how you would use it practically. So on here, you've got 4 different categories. You've got these are based on the original H9 pedals. So you've got a time factor, which would be the pedal, mod factor, pitch factor, space, which would be all like the reverb and stuff. Mod factor would be all sort of modulation things. And then you've got the dedicated H9 ones. So these are where some of the both most interesting and most useless ones is in the H9. So going quickly through these, you click on these, you can see all the different ones on here, digital delay, all the usual sorts of things on this, quite big variations. On a lot of these, I can basically get all these sounds from the Axe FX and more or less do it. So there's some nice ones on here. So if you see these ones here, where it's got the F1 are all the factory ones, which you get in the software. U1 is actually ones where I've been to. There's also a preset site. So if you look at the H9 Eventide documentation, some of it's out of date now. So the preset site, which they say on that, doesn't exist anymore, but there is a new one. So I'll try and remember to put a link to that in the description. And then you've got maybe a couple of hundred extra presets you can add as well, which have been done by other people, where people just upload it themselves. So these used ones, if you save one yourself, it's also going to be a U1. So you've got a Nova delay. So, I mean, this is like a very nice one for guitar solos, say, but it's not necessarily better than anything I've got in the Axe FX. And there's actually some other ones I prefer, like in Guitar Rig 5, you've got the Psych delay, which I think is better than the Axe FX ones. And also, I like the sound. I've got some really good ones in Soundtoys Echo Boy, which I think are better than the Axe FX as well for recording. But the Axe FX is good as well. So this is good, but it's not offering me anything new, so I don't really need it for that. Again, on this, you've got some nice ones on the mod delay. You've got some slightly different sounds on that. So it's okay. Several of these, they don't actually have any sound. They don't actually work. So I don't know if they just haven't been maintained in the presets or something's changed and we haven't set the preset. So that's something to look at, is that a number of these don't work. Another little bug I noticed is often when you move from one preset to another, it keeps asking if you want to save it, even if you haven't saved it. And that happens, seems a lot, which is quite odd. So just something to point out. Whereas, say, the Axe FX software, it's very stable. There is one bug I know to do with the pitch, to do with the pitch selection and the harmonizing, and a lot of people complained about it, and they just never fixed it before they stopped supporting the Axe FX 2. But it's very stable. It never pretty much crashes. Whereas on this, when you change stuff, if you go to, say, you've got pedal settings and stuff, when you change anything on this and reset it, it seems to lock it up. So you can't just turn this off. You also need to turn off what it's on, turn it off, and then sometimes turn it off several times again, and then it all starts working again. But it does lock up when you do it. So this software isn't 100%. But it actually looks a lot nicer, I think, the design, than the H90 one. The H90 one sort of looks really basic. Doesn't look great at all. This looks a lot cooler, and the design's a lot cooler. So anyway, moving on to the mod factor. I'll give you a few examples in a minute, just so you don't get too bored with it. So moving on to the mod factor. Again, with most of these, I can do it with the Axe FX, so it's not doing anything new. So you've got a few different ones on these. You've got the undulator. It doesn't really do the Axe FX. That's a unique one. That's a good one. But one I was quite surprised about is the flanger. So the flanger is actually better than any of the other flangers I've got for anything. I've got quite a few, but I just think the sounds are better on this, and there are some really cool ones on this. So this is a good one. I'll just play a little bit of this, actually, the pulsing flange. So I've got some up here. I've done like I said, I've done some videos before. I've got another one where I've got some top 5 on this. So this is a pulsing flange. I'll just play a bit of this just to break it up a bit, so you can hear what's going on with this one. Okay, yeah, so I do quite like that one. That's something a little bit different, and just for generally, I think for quality of the flanging ones are just really good. But I wouldn't buy it for that alone. Probably the most useless section is the pitch factor. So you've got very glitchy, very harmonized things, and you've got what I did think it would do better on these is the crystals. So the crystals sort of originates with Eventide, so I thought they'd be better, but actually I think the crystals sounds I can get them Axe FX are actually better, and also I think the crystals in the Soundtoys Effects Rack are actually better as well. So for those who don't know, Soundtoys was actually founded by a couple of the guys who used to work for Eventide, and yeah, I think there's some of the best, probably the best plugin collection there is for plugins. And I prefer the crystals on that actually, and on the Axe FX. So on Space, again, you've got a nice selection of reverbs, all the normal ones. You've got reverse reverb. Again, I prefer. I think I prefer reverse reverb on both the Axe FX and Soundtoys Effects Rack. Shimmer, I've got better outputs. Mod Echo Verb gives you a bit of a different flavour. Again, that's one where it gives you some different things which haven't got anywhere else. And then you've got Black Hole is one of the Eventide sort of flagship effects. It's one of the other ones, and I will show you some. I'll show you some examples in a minute of trying to do it on the Axe FX and what it's doing and comparing it. And then you've got Mangled Verb. Yeah, there's a couple of interesting things on that. I'll show. I'll play a little bit of that. That's something a bit strange on that. Something a bit interesting. I'll just play a little bit of that. Okay, so that's like an interesting sound. It's not something I'd use a lot, but it's something nice to have in your arsenal. Tremolo Verb and Dynaverb, not particularly bothered by again. Ultra Tap is one of the best ones. There are some unique sounds on that. I'll maybe play a bit of that later if you want. Well, not if you want. It's not like you're going to tell me while I'm doing it, is it? Resonator as well. It's got some good ones. So actually going through what I did when I got it was I went through all 500 presets on here, and I went through the other ones, and I just wrote down some ridiculous ones, some crazy ones but kind of cool, and then ones I might want to use all the time. So at the end of it, I was looking for unique ones I couldn't get anywhere else if it's worth keeping the pedal, and I came up with about 16 actual presets which I just couldn't convincingly reproduce using anything else. So I'm quite good at using the Axe FX to reproduce stuff. So when I had stuff in, say, Guitar Rig, I'd recorded stuff with that and I got the Axe FX. I found I could go through the Axe FX, figure out what all the routing is, what the plug, what the actual different effects were, and the same also of the Soundtoys Rack as well. To a large extent, I could replicate it. Maybe not quite as good or exactly the same, but pretty similar. Good enough for doing gigs, say. I could do that on my Axe FX. But with these ones in the H9, I couldn't make them sound the same. You sort of get like a budget version of it, but they just weren't as good. So those are the real selling points. It would be the 15 or 16 I've got, which are cool and which I just can't create for another way, or I don't know how to. So some of those are in Ultra Tap, some in Ultra Tap, some in Resonator. Going through on these, EQ compressor, I mean, it works fine for what it is, but there's lots of other ways you can do the same thing. Crustation, a bit rubbish, to be honest. All the ones, I think, some of the recent H9 ones where they're using like sculpt, pitch fuzz, crustation, they're using digital fuzz or digital distortion. They just, I don't think I really like any digital fuzz or distortion. It just all sounds a bit rubbish, to be honest. It's not something I really like. Maybe some people who do it. With the space time, when I saw all the demos of this, I thought, oh, that sounds really good and does it. But actually, for the space time, I actually found that on the Axe FX, I could get, if I used multi-delay and I used the big space reverb, so there's one of the reverbs called Space After It, I could pretty much get all the same kind of sounds of space time and actually better. So in that case, I could actually get a bigger and better range of quality sounds using the Axe FX than I could with the H9. So that, even though it sounded good in the demos, it wasn't necessarily much use. Yeah, sculpt and pitch fuzz are pretty useless. One thing I should mention as well is I'm just doing this for guitar, but I did try it for bass, and there's quite a few demos for the bass, and they make it sound really good on this. But when I used the bass of it, it was just a bit rubbish, really. So you do have to select under the options. You've got pedal settings, and you have the inputs, and you have the general settings, and you can change it. What you have to do is, there you go, guitar, source instrument. You set it on there. So you're just supposed to change it to bass, and I did. And it just really didn't work well for the lower strings at all. But then I changed it guitar to see if that helped, and it actually worked better with the bass on the guitar things. But if you look at the demos of the bass where it sounds good, you'll notice that the bits which sound good, they're all actually playing on much higher strings on the bass. So they're actually playing in the same range as the guitar. So yeah, something to bear in mind. I haven't tried it with keyboards because this would be a pain, because the only keyboards I've got are MIDI keyboards. And so that's not easy to route through because it's a separate pedal. So you can't, yeah. I can reamp using my Axe FX using sounds if I've got clean sounds. So I can use it to do that with the H9 pedal. But I don't think I can really do that with the keyboard sounds. So you need to have proper like analog keyboards and stuff going into it, and then you can use it. So people do use it for that. Hot saws. So hot saws is like a guitar synth thing. Again, this looked fun on the demos, it looked cool, but actually what I found was that I could get better ones in the Axe FX, and not only in the Axe FX, I could also do it in Guitar Rig 5. So that's not really like a proper synth thing. What that is a reproduction of the Electro Harmonics synth guitar pedal, but that's a completely different set of sounds, and they're kind of cool. And I could get quite a good range in the Axe FX too, but I actually found, I mean, always a problem with these synth things is that you've got to play really accurately and really cleanly, or it just sounds like a mess, and you can't do a lot of things you'd normally do in guitar playing, like scraping or damping or stuff like that. It just doesn't work. But the reaction to it is a lot better in the Axe FX, I think, than to the H9, so that's not really a lot of use. Armadillo may be one good thing. Tricerachorus. Actually, I'll just show you one thing on the Armadillo, because on these you have different views. So you've got a basic view, and then you've got a graph view, and you can do it. So there is some interesting sounds of this, but again, it's not something I would use much. Actually, going back to, if I have a look at these, just see which ones have got the, yeah, a good one would be maybe pitch fuzz. If you have a look at this, you can see the pedal view. So I was saying you only have one algorithm at a time on the H9, but you can have sometimes 3 different effects. So in this one, you've got a fuzz, and then you've got a pitch shifter thing, and then you've got delays afterwards. So you've actually got a mixture of things in it. So that's something to be aware of as well if you're not familiar with them. Right, going back to these, Armadillo. Tricerachorus. For choruses, I'm not particularly bothered with. They're not really necessarily anything better than themselves. But one which is actually really good, just try and find it now, is there's can't see where it is, but there's a vibrato which is under the chorus, and that was just a really nice vibrato. So sometimes you just you go through enough of them and you just find, here you go, this one here, you go for another one and you just find one which is just, oh, like with the flanger, the one I found particularly liked, and with this on the Tricerachorus, the vibrato is just better than the vibrato I could get with any other my effects or get with the Axe FX. It just sounded nicer. I don't really understand why, but it just did. So there are ones, when you spend enough time going through it, you find ones which it just does better. Okay, so what I'm going to do like now is, like I said, the black hole is that is one of the sort of standout effects which it's known for. And you do get people going on and they say, oh, yeah, lots of people with Axe FX, they spend a lot of money on an Axe FX. And they're like, oh, no, you can reproduce any of those sounds. I know how to do it. I can do it. But I got some of the best ones of people reproducing black hole. And I'm going to compare. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to compare what's going through the actual pedal. I'll just get it up here. It's on the reverb's black hole. So I've got it actually. Tell you what, another thing just to mention with the difference between the pedals and the plugins is, on the plugins you've got a lot more presets, and my favorite sound on the actual plugin is this one, H8000 black hole, which I think sounds better than the actual main black hole preset. But strangely, this isn't included on the factory ones. But well, if you want it and you've got it, you can just copy these settings. All you have to do is copy these ones here. But yeah, so you can just create your new ones. You notice that's this U1. These other U1s are ones which I got off the share site for presets. So this is the settings for black hole. And what I've done on these is, the way I was using it is, I've got it through Axe FX and it's going through the effects loop. So this is going into the effects loop on here. So if I play, I'll play the first one. I have to move this down across, and then this one is using it with the Axe FX with standard clean. It has got a bit of compression on the front, and it's just got the effects loop afterwards. And I'll play the, so you'll hear it, what it's like using the actual pedal, and then I'll show you what it's like compared to the plugin. So it's the same setting on the plugin, and then I'll show you some different versions where people have. I think the first one is one which is a standard one in the Axe FX called Black Hole, and the next one is by a guy called Simeon, who does a lot of really good presets, and he's put them up on his site as well. So I'll try and include a link to that. And he's done a lot of good blocks. So this is actually a block for it's for the multi-tap delay. It's actually, which one is it? It's, find it on here. It's the multi-delay here. So it's actually using that, and then it's using, I'll show you on this actually. So it's using this multi-tap, and then he's got a block in it, and he's got one called black hole. Okay, so first example, I'll play it to you now, is black hole going through the actual H9 pedal, and then I'll compare it to the plugin. Oh, hang on, need to go back to the beginning on this. Okay. Okay, so this next one, just for contrast, is I'll just play, so this is the plugin, so I'll get at the plugin so you can see this. that was a £29.99 plugin. It's often on sale for about regular price is about 3 million quid or something, but it probably only sells for that for about 2 days a year or something. So normally you can get it for about £29.99 or £39.99. Right, so the next one I'm going to do is, this is the Axe FX Black Hole. So I'll just get this up. So this is one which is, I think this is one which just came with it. I've moved all these around on here. So this is Black Hole setting here. So I'll play you this one. So this is an attempt, I think, by Fractal itself to recreate a black hole setting. So what you've got instead of here is you've got lots of different delays. You've got a multi-delay, another delay there, you've got big reverb, and then you've got lots of swelling on volumes. So I'll play you this, see how you think it compares to either the plugin or the actual pedal. Okay, so next one. This is another Axe FX one. So this is, let's get it up. So this one is actually using all the same sounds as I was using on here. Plus it's using this one here. So I'll add this in, you see it. So this is the, yeah, it's a multi-delay. And this is a block created. So a block in the Fractal. So you've got so in the Axe FX, just so you know, so you've got a preset, and then within a preset you have 8 scenes. So they're different variations on the preset. But then you can also save like presets for the individual effects, and they're called blocks. So this is a block for multi-delay. Oh, turn that off. So I'll play this, and you can see this. Okay, so yeah, it'd be interesting to know what you think about these. Personally, I've seen another video where I saw people comparing Black Hole from the pedal, and also comparing it to the plugin, and also to the, I think it's the H9000, the current one of it. The more there's another Eclipse, which is a more expensive rack mount ones, and it looked like the really expensive versions were just slightly better at each stage, with the plugin being the worst. But I actually, on just at least the Black Hole preset, I think it actually sounded better on the actual plugin than it did on the actual pedal, which was surprising. And then with the other ones in the Axe FX, they kind of sounded Black Hole-ish, but it wasn't the same thing, I don't think. You might disagree. Feel free to put it in the comments if you're doing it. There's other people have attempted to do similar things using like the free Valhalla one as well. But again, I've heard versions of that and they sound Black Hole-ish, but it's just not the same. So yeah, after sort of playing about with it and trying it, as I said, what I came up with in the end is I came up with about 15, 16 unique presets, and I tried to go through these and I tried to reproduce them. So in the Axe FX, I could pretty much reproduce all my other software plugins. Not exactly, but good enough for, say, playing a gig. I couldn't with about 15, 16 really cool H9 presets. So if you're thinking of buying one, the price has dropped down on the Eventide on the H9 Max. It would be nice to have the H90, but again, it's like £900. It's a lot of money for a few presets, and I wasn't particularly overwhelmed with the demos I saw of the new presets they created anyway. So yeah, hopefully if you're thinking about buying an H9 and whether it's actually worth it for you, I mean, a lot of it obviously comes down to you, because a lot of people will use it as a sort of like a multi-tool thing, and you can get it to do lots of different things. You only need to have one pedal on a small pedal board. But then if you're only looking for the standard effects, there's lots of cheaper options like there's a Line 6 ones, and that's going to be like less than half the price. There's other options which will do all your basic modulation, delay, reverb ones for a fraction of the price, and a multi-delay digital pedal. So you don't need to spend as much as that if that's all you're looking for. So if you're going to buy an H9, you want it for the special things it does better than anybody else and which you can't reproduce. And there is a certain amount of things which it simply does better than anybody else, I think. So that's my end conclusion. Whether or not it's worth the money to use to do that is, it's up to you. But yeah, it's fun. It's a fun pedal to play. Hopefully this has been useful to you. I've got another couple of presets ones. I've got one which is just like a silly one, which is like top 5 use. Everybody was doing videos showing, oh, here's my actual useful effects I can actually use. But they're, whatever. There's loads of useful effects. You don't need the H9 for that. So I just did a top 5 useless ones. And then I've got a crazy but cool ones. And then I might do some more in the future if people are interested. So hopefully it's been useful. Check out, if you want some more Axe FX stuff, you're interested in that, I've got a whole load of presets you can download from witchpig.co.uk, along with a whole load of free plugins, presets and contact instruments as well. So yeah, thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.